Good evening and welcome to the ordinary meeting of Council for the 8th of October 2024. Firstly, congratulations to our newly elected councillors and thank you for nominating to represent your local community. I particularly welcome the 4 new councillors for this council term. Much of this meeting focuses on procedural detail which we'll need to work through patiently and slowly so we get everything right. It is a limited agenda for this meeting. Particularly for our new councillors, just to mention the camera system. When you press your microphone button, the camera spins around and you'll then be on live stream. And when you switch off your microphone button, then the camera will switch back to the chair. So that's just an important basic thing to remember. Prior to the first item on starting to work through the agenda, councillors aren't able to make resolutions until they take the oath. However, as has been practice at the first meeting in recent times, I'd like to offer councillors the opportunity to informally nominate a chairperson to conduct the meeting until the election of a mayor. I'm happy to take a nomination.
I'm happy to nominate Councillor Statham, if she'd like to take it, the chair.
Are there any other nominations?
I'm happy to second that.
I'll accept that. Thank you, Mr. Gurney.
Okay. I'll now invite Councillor Marnie to act as chairperson until the election of a mayor.
Okay, thank you, councillors and members of the public who are attending tonight. I'd firstly like to undertake an acknowledgement of country. Lithgow Council acknowledges the Wiradjuri elders past and present of the Wiradjuri Nation, the original custodians of the land on which the Lithgow communities reside. The Council also extends our respects to our neighbouring nations and other First Nations people who might be here today. I'd also like to make a declaration of webcasting. I inform all those in attendance at this meeting that the meeting is being webcast, and those in attendance should refrain from making any defamatory statements concerning any person, councillor or employee, and refrain from discussing those matters subject to closed council proceedings as indicated in clause 14.1 of the Code of Meeting Practice. I just want to acknowledge that the following councillors are present. Councillor Statham, Councillor Goodwin, Councillor Friedrichs, Councillor Tysos, Councillor Smith, Councillor Evangelidis, Councillor Ring and Councillor Coleman. Is there any apologies? No? Public forum, are we running with?
There were no public forum, people registered to speak during public forum, but if anyone would like to speak on anything on the business paper from the floor, now is the time, otherwise we'll continue.
Okay, we've got the first of the administration reports. The General Manager, Ross Gurney, spoke to this, the oath and affirmation of office by councillors. So essentially, yes, I'll ask Ross to speak to that, Mr. Gurney, the General Manager.
This item is the oath and affirmation of office by councillors. The Act states that a councillor must take an oath of office or make an affirmation of office at or before the first meeting of the council after the councillor is elected. And the oath or affirmation can be done by way of a signed statement containing the oath or affirmation, or by recording the taking of the oath or the affirmation by each councillor in the meeting minutes. So the oath and the affirmation, which is a personal choice, are on the podium speaker. It's a matter of just pressing the microphone, and I'll go through each councillor in alphabetical order to step up to the podium if they wish to make their oath or affirmation in person. Otherwise, I do have a form here. So the first councillor is Councillor Coleman.
Thank you. I'll be doing an affirmation. I, Cassandra Coleman, solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that I will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interest of the people of Lithgow local government area and the Lithgow City Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. Just for the public gallery and the live stream, the difference between the oath and the affirmation is simply a slight difference in wording. The oath contains the words "I swear," whereas the affirmation states that I solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm. So it's just a slightly different wording. The next councillor is Councillor Evangelides.
Just the microphone, please, Councillor.
I choose the oath. I, Tom Evangelides, swear that I'll undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interests of the people of the Lithgow local government area and the Lithgow City Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evangelides. The next councillor is Councillor Fredericks.
Thanks.
Sorry, I'll take the oath. I, Elizabeth Frederick, swear that I'll undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interests of the people of the Lithgow local government area and the Lithgow City Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Thank you, Councillor Fredericks. Councillor Goodwin.
Thank you. I'll be taking the oath. I, Darryl Goodwin, swear that I will undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interests of the people of Lithgow, local government area and the Lithgow City Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Thank you, Councillor Goodwin. Councillor Marnie.
I, Eric Marnie, solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that I will undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interests of the people of Lithgow local government area and the Lithgow City Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Councillor Ring.
I'll be taking the affirmation. I, Stephen Ring, solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that I will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interest of the people of Lithgow local government area and the Lithgow City Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. Councillor Smith.
I'll take the oath. I, Ray Smith, swear that I will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interest of the people of Lithgow local government area and the Lithgow City Council, and I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Statham.
I'll be taking the oath, thank you. Marie Statham, I swear that I will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the people of Lithgow and local government area and the Lithgow City Council, and I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions and powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to be the best of my ability and judgment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Statham. Councillor Ticehurst.
I'll be taking the oath. I, Martin Ticehurst, swear that I will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interest of the people of Lithgow local government area and the Lithgow City Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Thank you, Councillor Ticehurst.
Okay, that concludes that item. We're now moving on to item 1.2, which is a nomination for and election for the positions of Mayor for the period October 2024 to September 2026. Now at this point I expect I'll vacate and yourself take over, or?
Yes, I'll take over.
Yep.
And then
Okay.
I will act as returning officer. Did you want to stay here or?
No, I'm happy to return.
Okay,
I'll-
and once we have a mayor elected, then the mayor would take the place of the chairperson.
Mr. Garney, if I may, I'd like to move that we use the open voting system.
Do I have a seconder?
Can I put that to the vote? For Councillor Statham, Goodwin, Fredericks, Ticehurst, Smith, Evangelidis, Ring, Coleman and Marnie. Declare that's passed.
So for the election of the mayor and then following the election of the mayor, the election of a deputy mayor, if council does resolve to have a deputy mayor, I will follow the procedures set out by the Office of Local Government. So it is a bit of a process, but I'll work through it and we'll get there. So I'll start with just the statement that as returning officer, I now invite nominations for the position of mayor for a 2-year period. I do currently have 2 nominations. I'm just checking if there's any further nominations before proceeding. Okay. In accordance with the Local Government Regulation 2021, 2 or more councillors may nominate a councillor for the position of Mayor, nominations must be in writing and the nominee must consent to their nomination in writing, and that is the situation with the two nominations that I have. The nominations that I have for the position, the office of Mayor, are Councillor, and I'll just read them in alphabetical order, Councillor Coleman and Councillor Ticehurst. As we have more than one candidate nominated, the council has determined by resolution the method of voting, which will be open voting. And based on that, so the method of voting means that it's just by show of hands. It's an open voting process. And each councillor is entitled to vote for only one candidate in each round. Well, there'll only be one round of voting, seeing there's two candidates nominating. So I'll simply put this to the vote now. Would those councillors voting for Councillor Coleman please raise their hand? So I'll just, for the benefit of the live stream, I'll just read out the councillors' names. So I have Councillor Coleman, Councillor Ring, Councillor Evangelides, Councillor Marnie and Councillor Smith. Would those councillors voting for Councillor Ticehurst please raise their hand? I have Councillor Ticehurst, Councillor Fredericks, Councillor Goodwin and Councillor Statham. So on that basis, I then have Councillor Coleman elected as Mayor. Councillor Coleman may then take the chair.
Thank you to my fellow councillors who supported me. I just want to say a few words. The council I lead won't be I, it will be we. I am 1 of 9. Everybody has a voice in this council. Everybody has a right to an opinion. Everybody has the right to bring things forward. I just want to say a quick word about Councillor Ticehurst. I want to thank you, Councillor Ticehurst. I remember a conversation you and I had when I first was a councillor, and I got the opportunity to sit next to you for 3 months. You taught me a lot, you inspire me, and the first thing you ever said to me was, Cass, if you ever get the numbers to run for mayor, then do it. And on that, I'd like to thank you for the inspiration many, many years ago, and if it wasn't for that inspiration, I wouldn't be sitting in the chair today. So thank you so much.
Can I just say that I didn't say that?
Oh, sorry. Well, maybe it was councillors. I thought it was you, so I apologise for that. So perhaps it was someone else. I just want to thank those councillors who ever sat next to me, who inspired me and supported me. I apologise if that wasn't you. Oh well. But you still inspire me, so thank you anyway. We'll get on to the business of being onto the next agenda. Thank you. We're up to 1.3. My understand is that we've got nominations for Deputy Mayor. Do we have them?
Councillor Coleman,
before you move.
Mayor Coleman, you will have to have someone move a motion to actually have a deputy mayor. Would be a good idea, thank you.
Yeah,
I'll move.
Mayor Coleman. Oh, he's moved it.
So
I'll move
Councillor Statham is moving that we have a deputy
Yeah.
mayor. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Ring. I'll put it. Do we have any opposition? No. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Carried. Thank you. We do now move on to...
Before you move on, Mayor Coleman, we need to determine the method of election. There's probably 3 other items or 4 other items.
Sure.
I'd like to amend them so that item 2 is... Oh, we've obviously done the election, the deputy or mayor will be elected for the mayoral term. The method of voting for any election of a deputy mayor, open voting. The fee to be paid to the deputy mayor is nil.
Are you moving that, Councillor Ring?
Yeah, that's what I'm moving.
Yeah. And who, do I have a seconder?
Can we speak to that?
Absolutely.
Is that the mayoral term of 2 years? Is that what it is?
Mayoral term is 2 years.
No. I'll move an amendment to that.
What was your amendment?
That we go back to
I'm sorry,
for the deputy.
second that first.
Do I have a seconder for Councillor Rings? I've got Councillor Marnie. So would you like to speak to that, Councillor Marnie? Okay. Would you like to put up an amendment, Councillor Goodwin?
Yeah, I just move an amendment that we go back to the original 1 year term for deputy mayor, not the 2 year term.
So do you have a seconder for your amendment?
That's not going back to it, that's what it is. We have a deputy mayor every year and a mayor every 2 years.
Point of order, it's irrelevant what the council does. It is within the legislation to vote for a 2 year term. It's either a 1 year or 2 year term. It's in the legislation.
I have an amendment on the floor, which Councillor Goodwin has put forward. Do you have a seconder?
I'll second it.
So it's Councillor Frederick. Who's seconded that? Councillor Fredericks. Okay, so I've got an amendment to the motion. So we'll vote. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Goodwin?
I just think that that the way it's been done, I know there might be provisions for it. We did it last term. This term's different. I think that the provision of 1 year for a deputy mayor should stand, and we should all vote each year for a new deputy mayor. If that deputy mayor proves to be the right person, they'll get voted back in again.
Mayor Statham, sorry, slip of the tongue. Councillor Statham, would you like to speak as the seconder?
Well, yes, I would, but...
Councillor Frederick, sorry, would you like to speak? Sorry, Councillor Statham.
I think that's a good idea because then we can see who works in each position.
Okay, so we've got an amendment. Would you like to speak as well? Councillor
I've only
Statham?
been on council since 2012, but to the best of my knowledge, it's always been 1 year for the deputy mayor. Last term, it may not have been, but it was only 3 years. So it is a 4 year term, and I think we should allow other councillors in the room, if they so wish, or whoever gets to be deputy mayor, if they do really good work, and happy for them to do 2 years or continue through that 4 year term.
That's great, thank you. Would anybody like to speak against the amendment?
Yeah, look, I don't see what's different between the last term of 3 years and this term. It was convenient last term to have a 2 year term. I don't see the difference.
Anybody else would like to speak against the amendment? Councillor Marnie?
I just find a 12-month period a relatively short period for anyone to demonstrate their ability in a role. I'd personally prefer to see it 2 years, aligned with the mayor. So that's my view. I think it's a very short period where we're basically making an assessment on someone within 10 to 11 months, and maybe or maybe not changing the deputy mayor. But so I'm supportive of the 2 year period.
Do I have anybody else that'd like to speak for or against? Councillor Tysos?
Yeah, thank you. I think you need to appreciate that the deputy mayor is just a title. There's no payment for it, so I can't see why it can't be just the 1 year. And if it needs to be, other people get experience in the role. But I mean, you're realistically arguing over something that the deputy mayor doesn't do. The only time that they'll be required to do anything is to fill in for the mayor at a meeting or something like that. So I think if you look at what the previous deputy mayors have all done, it's very little. So why wouldn't you rotate it once every year, and then it's all going well, 4 people get a chance rather than just 1 or 2.
Does anybody like to speak for or against? Any other right of reply? Councillor Goodwin?
Yes. First of all, I think there may be a conflict of interest with Councillor Ring bringing this motion if he is running for deputy mayor, and I think maybe certain possible deals have been made prior to this,
Point of order.
Point of, look,
Point
I
of order.
believe
Seriously,
that-
go back
yeah.
to the last council where a deal was done at the beginning. Sorry. I find that quite offensive.
I find that that there is a conflict of interest if council to bring this notice of motion to the meeting for 2 years. If
Sorry, I've already called a point of order. I'd like a ruling on it, thank you.
Yeah, look, I don't believe that what you're saying is actually correct. Let's try and speak to the issue. Let's play the ball, not the man. So can we stick to what you're actually trying to, what point you'd like to make? So I rule in favour of Councillor Ring. So I haven't actually spoken on this issue, but does anybody else like to speak? But that was the right reply. I'm going to put the amendment. All in favour of the amendment? I'll consider that carried. That is carried. That becomes the motion. All those in favour? Carried. So we go back to the Deputy Mayor being 12 months. Do we have nominations? I'll hand it over to Mr. Gurney.
Thank you, Mayor Coleman. Again, I'll run through the procedure. I have 2 nominations for the office of Deputy Mayor. I'll just check if there's any further nominations before proceeding. We already have a resolution to proceed by the open voting method, and which is show of hands. The 2 nominations I have in alphabetical order are Liz Fredericks and Councillor Stephen Ring. So in alphabetical order, I'll just put forward for a show of hands for Councillor Fredericks. So I have Councillor Statham, Councillor Goodwin, Councillor Fredericks and Councillor Ticehurst. I'll then ask for a show of hands for Councillor Ring. I have Mayor Coleman, Councillor Ring, Councillor Evangelides, Councillor Marnie and Councillor Smith. In that case, Councillor Ring has been elected as Deputy Mayor.
We're now up to item 1.4. Delegations to the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor. What's the will of the council?
Move the recommendations.
Mr. Gurney would also like to speak to this. I understand that Councillor Ring's already moved it, but if Mr. Gurney, if you'd like to speak to it first.
Did you want to ask for a seconder?
I'll ask for a seconder. Yep, Councillor Marnie's happy to second, but we'll ask the General Manager to speak to it.
Through you, Mayor Coleman. Just to quickly summarise, particularly for the new councillors, the administration's recommendation for delegations to the Mayor and Deputy Mayor are fairly standard. The General Manager's Performance Review Panel, that a report will go to the 28th of October meeting on that matter. But just to note too that I've included on page 16 of the business paper that the Finance Committee had agreed in the previous council term that council should have detailed and specific delegations for the Mayor and General Manager, which includes a list of all relevant acts. So that is a work in progress, and that will come to council probably early in the new year.
If I may speak to it now.
Yes.
The issues that Mr. Gurney spoke to, I raised in the Finance Committee. I've been arguing for the most of this year to get changes. Councillors, particularly new councillors, need to know what the delegations are. There's over 30 acts, and previously you just got looking to award the delegations. We need everyone to have a better understanding of what's involved and what's been delegated. what can be withdrawn if needed. And there's also a need to have a clear and concise delegations policy or document for the Mayor, particularly in relation to the exercise of duties in between meetings. I've looked at numerous councils around the states and they have fixed limits. And I think moving forward we need to adopt something similar for this council.
Councillor Marnie, you second it. Would you like to speak?
Just a question of clarity. We established a General Manager's Performance Review Panel. Obviously there's been change in some of the councillors. Are we resetting that Performance Review Panel from scratch, or are we retaining those that were on it? And I think I was the only one left now out of the group in the roles that they were.
General Manager, would you like to answer that, please?
Through you, Mayor Coleman. Yes, as I mentioned, I will have put a report to the 28th of October meeting, and that will seek nominations for a councillor representative and to keep the same format, where it would be the Mayor, Deputy Mayor, one other councillor and one councillor nominated by the General Manager, and I would be happy to retain Councillor Marnie as my representative.
Okay, thank you. Can I also, I just wanted to reiterate the point that Councillor Ring made in regard to Councillor and General Manager delegations. I just want to be clear about in between meetings and exercise of policy. That concerned me in the previous term, and I just want to go into this process with better clarity around where those limitations sit between meetings. Significant expenditure that occurs should always occur within the presence of the councillors, and those decisions are made here. I had a procurement officer whose discussion with me about emergencies was poor planning never constituted an emergency. If we haven't planned our presentation of these things to the council, we have within our powers to use extraordinary meetings. I would prefer to see those decisions made on behalf of ratepayers made within this meeting of the councillors. So that's the only other point I'll raise there. Otherwise, I'm comfortable with what's in front of us.
Yeah, thank you. I have a
Councillor Tysos?
thank you. I have a question. Is there any reason why this can't be adjourned to the 28th?
It can't be. Would you like to do deferral?
I'm happy to move an amendment that it be deferred to the 28th. I'm looking around the room. There's, I'm not necessarily a new councillor, but there's three others that look quite confused,
Yes.
and I think it's appropriate so they can get their head round it at the next meeting.
So you're moving that. Do I have a seconder for that?
Yeah, I'm happy to support that.
Councillor Marnie. So if that's the amendment to it, or do I put that now? Yep. Would you like me to put that? So if I put that to the vote, all those in favour of the deferral, the 28th?
Yep.
Unanimous. Carried. Moving on to the second item, or the what's the next item, sorry? Okay. 1.5, what's the will of the council?
I move the recommendation.
Do I have a seconder?
Second it.
Councillor Tysos, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, simply put, this process was adopted at the last council. It's adopted by nearly every other council in New South Wales, where instead of having a by-election, there is a process for them to go back through the voting papers that we've just had to work out who was going to be re-elected into a vacancy that occurs during the 4-year term. It may not necessarily be the for the information of the gallery and the live stream. It may not be the person that comes 10th or 11th and so on. There's a complete reshuffle of the votes depending on where they go, depending on who leaves or resigns from the council. But this is the best and most financial option for the council to adopt, and it's why most councils, if not all of them, are adopting it. So I move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Ring, you second it?
Yeah, look, I'd like to agree with Councillor Tysos. It's a financially responsible position to take with council. The count back is not necessarily what people imagine. Councillor Tysos is right, having been through it. It depends on how many people actually put their hand up again and where the preferences go from the people. So it's not always clear cut, but I think it's the best outcome for the community.
Thank you. Anybody like, Councillor Marnie?
Just to support Councillor Tysus. Agreed, it's a significant cost by elections. I think we need to minimise our exposure to cost to the community. We're looking at something that's travelling towards $250,000. So this is an effective way. It's still a strong democratic pathway. So I'm very supportive of it, and I encourage my fellow councillors to support it as well.
Anybody else? Councillor Statham?
I agree with Councillor Marnie. I think all councillors should support this. We're always looking at our finances, and this is running a by-election is a very big cost to our ratepayers, and we do not need to put that on them. So I think having the next person that has done well, if that falls over, you just go down the line like as what happened previously last year. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak to this item? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 1.6. What's the will of the council? And the General Manager would like to speak to it.
Through you, Mayor Coleman, just to provide some further clarity, the appointment of a councillor member of the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee is at the discretion of council. Under the 2021 amendment of the Local Government Regulation, it sets out the membership of the committee, and council may appoint one councillor who must not be the mayor to be appointed to the ARIC for the council. So it's a non-voting role on the committee.
Can I just ask you, is there any reason why this couldn't be transferred over? Because we're probably going to be doing the committees at the next meeting as well.
Would you like to move deferral, Councillor Tysus?
No, hang on.
Oh, sorry, Councillor. Sorry, General Manager.
Through you, Mayor Coleman, it specifically states in the post-election guide that this is a matter that should be decided at the first meeting.
Does anybody have any desire to be on this committee?
No.
Councillor Statham?
No, I don't have any. I have done it for the last 3 years. I think you have to really be mindful who does get this position. They need to have a really good idea of finances. There's no point in going on that committee just to find out a certain amount of things. You need to have a very good idea of finances to even think you can succeed on this committee. It's a very, very important committee.
Do you have any nominees? Do we have any nominees for this committee?
Look, I'll put my hand up if no one wants it. I have done it before, briefly, in the previous council before the new legislation came in, and I've had extensive experience on the Finance Committee, so...
Can I have someone nominate Councillor Ring? I'll nominate Councillor Ring. If no one else wants to nominate. Do I have a seconder for that?
I second that myself.
Okay, well, I'll nominate Councillor Ring and then I'll second it. Or if anybody have any opposition to that or objection to that? No? All right, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. We're now up to business of great urgency. Do we have any items? Councillor Ring?
Yes, Mayor Coleman. Last Friday I met with the executive from Small Arms Museum, and they're having difficulties in getting repairs undertaken. It's been roughly 5 weeks since the burglary. They're having to pay $5,000 a week out of their own money for security. If they don't get the repairs done shortly, then basically there is the risk that the guns could be taken off them. So if you're happy, I have a motion to put up.
First we have to determine if it's business of great urgency, and that's actually up to the council to determine whether or not it's business of great urgency. So as a council... Oh, it's up to me. I thought it was always up to... Oh, okay. Well, I consider it business of great urgency. I understand that there's a real issue there. So let's proceed with that. So if you have a motion...
I have a motion for, I put it originally the manager, for the administration to seek clarification from Tallis and the Lithgow Small Arms Museum executive on the delays in approving essential maintenance works while they are paying $5,000 per week for security. Otherwise, the Firearms Registry could confiscate and relocate the collection to Sydney.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Marnie, would you like to speak to it?
Sorry, I think Councillor Ring's covered the issue.
Would anybody else like to speak for or against this issue?
I'm happy to speak for it, but I think the last comment needs to be deleted
Which comment was that,
in
Councillor?
regards to the firearms being taken back to Sydney.
Oh, okay, yes.
That
Councillor
should-
Ring, would you like to review?
No, I'm happy for that to go. I'm only going on what I was advised. So I'm happy for that to go.
Would you like to do an amendment, Councillor Tysus?
I've taken it.
It's taken it out? Great. Do we have a consensus? Yep. Nobody, do we have any opposition on that?
I think it finishes, if I'm looking at the motion, it finishes after maintenance work. Oh, sorry. Actually, it finishes after, maintenance work.
Maintenance work. Look, I'm happy for it to be a simple
Thank you.
sentence. That gets to the heart of the matter.
Do you wish to speak further to it, Councillor Tysus? All right, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried unanimously. Does anybody else have any further business of great urgency? No? I'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you and good night.